Hey guys, my name is Moon and welcome back for more Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 4, Himatsubushi. So last time it added, or Rika-chan added a lot to the mystery yet again, right? The questions like why does she know this? Why does she know that? Why does she sound older and stuff like that, right? And we also saw the tips last time, right? It was her mother's diary, and it was what do you call this? A different perspective on, or I don't know, not different, but a nice perspective, I suppose, to see her mom or hear what her mom was saying, right, about Rika-chan, that she was very different, right? That someone was teaching her things that she didn't even teach, right? I wish we could see her mom, but her mom disappeared, right? On, I think it was the third year, right? The husband died and the mom disappeared. So yeah, let's just continue. So let's see what happens today. Continue.
それは誰もが忘れそうなほど地方の小さな村の出来事。悲劇は幕を閉じ、その傷跡も消え去ろうとしていたある日、青年はかつて出会った少女に思いを馳せる。あの日聞けなかった言葉、あの日果たせなかった約束、その後悔と慟哭が閉じられたままだった運命を開く一つの光となった。暇つぶし。運命は幸せだけじゃない。でも不幸を望む人なんて誰もいない。
Wait, so we just started the game? Are you serious? I thought we were gonna be finishing it. Midsummer 1985. Oh, we're back now, I suppose, right to the present time.
パパってば。
Miyuki. Oh, this is Akasaka's daughter, Yuki.
大丈夫？怖い夢でも見たの？
Miyuki was sitting next to me. I quickly patted her head after hearing her say that. I must have had a bad dream while sleeping in the cabin, so I was sweating profusely.
いや、なんでもない。ちょっと暑かったかな。
I tried to wipe away the sweat while answering and looked around for a handkerchief or a towel. And then a cold drop ran down my forehead. Miyuki turned around to me and smiled and wiped my face with a towel she received at the takeoff. But yeah, he said it's gonna be a daughter. It is a daughter.
ありがとう、ユキ。
Thanks to her, I was finally able to shake off my slumber, so I got up from the aisle seat and then looked out of the window. I wrapped my arms around Miyuki in the window seat and listened to the noise as the land and sea blew past us before our eyes. And then the plane gently turned before entering the airport runway. Arriving at the lobby, I glanced around looking for Ooshi and was met with a familiar gruff voice calling out to me. Wow, we're having very nice music now.
AKASAKA'S! 何年ぶりでしょう。ご無沙汰しておりますね。
大石さん、本当にお久しぶりです。
Ooshi clapped his hand down on my shoulder, celebrating our reunion.
赤坂さんもだいぶいい顔つきになりましたね。 最前線の捜査官らしい顔つきですよ。
大石さんはだいぶスマートになりましたね。背筋も良くなったような。これも社交ダンスのおかげですか。
The ballroom.
赤坂さんもね、若いうちからダンスはやっておいた方がいいですよ。そしたらきっとモテます。モテモテ。
Ooshi had retired and moved to Sapporo, and all things had started taking ballroom dance classes. He had apparently gotten really into it and had decided to spend the rest of his new life devoted to that hobby. He was aiming to get his instructor's qualification before he hit 80 and live his old age dandily.
おやそちらがひょっとして。
Ooshi suddenly turned his attention to Miyuki, who was standing idly next to me. He bent down on his knee to look her in the face. She's very shy. However, my daughter was frightened and hid behind my back.
こらみゆき、ちゃんとご挨拶しなさい。
Yes, this is the person who saved your dad.
あ、えっと
She was staring at Ooshi with a dubious expression while tugging at the hem of my shirt. She's usually not this shy, so I wonder what's wrong.
すみません。いつもはこうじゃないんですが。
I mean, kids are usually very shy, of course, when meeting new people.
いいんですよ。おじさん顔が怖いからな。よかったらお名前を聞いてもいいですか。
赤坂みゆき、7歳です。こんにちはです。
いいお返事です。さすがは赤坂さんの娘さんですよな。
Ooshi gently stroked Miyuki's head and smiled as though she were his own grandchild. After finally seeing that Miyuki smiled in relief, shortly afterwards, Miyuki told me that she was just doing what I had told her to do, be careful around strangers. Ooshi overheard that and let out a hearty laugh, shaking his body while laughing and walking. I let myself into Ooishi's car and we headed out towards the hot spring. I had originally intended to crash at Ooishi's place, but Ooshi was quite obstinate that his home wasn't suitable for that, so it came to this. At an inn, we relaxed while soaking in the hot springs, then ate a delicious feast until we were full. Miyuki had a little of the Mongolian barbecue and was delighted with it. After our bellies were swollen, Miyuki grew sleepy and went off to bed, and then Ooshi and I reminisced about the time we played mahjong together in Hinamizawa. It seemed that to celebrate the reunion, Ooshi had to look for people he could play. But unable to find a suitable candidate, we had to give up on putting together a table. As we drank together, we were excitedly recounted our exploits during the final manhunt.
結局、あの犯人の2人は捕まったんですか。
いいえ。
I mean, that's literally impossible to find those two guys.
結局山狩りでも見つけられませんでした。多分村にかくまわれてから海外か遠方でほとぼりを冷ましてるんじゃないかと思いますね。
大石さんは確か犯人の銃の一丁を奪いましたよね。あれからは
海外の軍用拳銃でした。関西系の暴力団組織が大量に密輸したうちの一丁でしょうな。戦場痕を調べましたが 他の事件とのつながりは何も出ませんでした。そっちでは？
私はあの後、しばらく現場を離れましたので、よくは知りません。結局、全部闇の中ってことで決着したようですがね。
Ooshi smiled wryly as he sipped his chilled drink.
あの後は大変でしたね。今年で7年ですか。
ええ。先日、7回忌の法要がありました。
A memorial?
岐阜とも最近は疎遠でして、準備でいろいろ苦労しました。
Wait, what? Did his wife die?
それはお疲れ様でした。
It was then the hostess brought in the extra drinks that we had ordered before. While the bottles of beer clanked as she brought them in, we held a conversation. What Oishi meant when he said it must have been tough. Thinking about that was still hard, but time healed the wound. It was the day after when I phoned Oishi to apologize. When I did, Ooshi almost immediately handed the phone to one of my colleagues who had happened to be there. Not only was I injured in the brawl with the suspects, but I disappeared to drink late into the night without leaving any sort of contact information, so I thought he'd definitely be mad. However, all he said was that it was something he could talk about over the phone and that I should come to the station as soon as possible. At the time, I could only think that he must have been really pissed off. But when I arrived at the station, he said this.
君の奥さんが事故に遭ったらしい。
That's sad though, very, very sad. Having no idea what happened, I borrowed the phone to contact the hospital Yukie was staying at. After being given the runaround several times, I was finally able to talk to someone in charge, and after mincing words for quite some time, they told me.
Akasaka Yukie様が事故でお亡くなりになりました。
Dude, you can't even imagine, man. What the hell happened? Like hearing that your wife was pregnant. Yeah, thank God that the baby was safe, but still, right? Insanity. The world became a blur as I sat there dumbfounded. Yukie's death was unbelievably abrupt, unbelievably sudden. I could have understood this if there was some kind of problem during the birth. But Yukie's death wasn't anything like that. On the stairs on the way up to the roof, she just happened to slip and fall. Maybe that's why, what do you call this, Rika-san kept saying, go back to Tokyo, right? Go back to Tokyo, because maybe that was gonna happen and she knew that. And she just fell to an unfortunate place at an unfortunate angle. And that was it. Wanting to blame Yuki's death on somebody, I began to think that it was an act of revenge by the Guardians, that they killed my wife and made it look like an accident. What I learned when I flew back to Tokyo, however, was much more crueler than that. Yuki had a habit of going to the rooftop, so she kept doing it, okay, to cool off in the evening. So it was a routine, I suppose. There was an elevator up to the 7th floor, but from there, you had to take the stairs to get up to the roof. Even late in her pregnancy, when the evening came, she would always head up there. Her father had always said for her to not push herself. But Yuki insisted that until the time she had no choice but to stay in bed, she should be allowed to be or to do as she wished. However, I had never once seen Yuki go up the roof. I only heard that from her father and the nurses. That was because whenever I visited her, she would spend that time with me instead. I heard the reason why Yukie went up the roof from a nurse she had become friendly with. She had said that her husband was away on business a lot of time, and that whenever he called, she was able to cheer him up and give him courage. But when he didn't call, she couldn't do that. Her husband might put on a show of bravado, but in reality he grew lonesome pathetically fast. She was probably just the same. Whenever he left for business, it's not clear when he'd be back. She felt very, very lonely. Whenever she cheered him up, she was actually cheering herself up as well. That's why whenever he went far away for an important job, on the evenings he didn't call, she felt that standing underneath the same sky, her feelings would reach him. At that moment, I remember the words that the girl had told me. That it was best that I go back to Tokyo right away. See? Otherwise, there would be something I'd regret horribly. Yes, that's it. Because I was away on the business that Yuki had headed up to the roof. And wrapped everything to head back to Tokyo. Had I done as the girl had said, and dropped everything to head back to Tokyo, I might have been with Yuki the day she died, or maybe even stopped that from happening, right? If I was with her, she wouldn't have gone up to the roof. The day my wife died was on the evening of the third day of my trip. Yes, it was right before the time I had a sudden urge to hear Yuki's voice and run around the village trying to find the phone. That girl or the girl had gone around and cut all the phone cords. If she hadn't and I had made the call, I would have not only learned of Yuki's death at the time and collapsed in tears. Damn, like the connections, man. Of course, even though the cords were cut, it had only put me off learning of Yuki's death by that one evening. In the end, I had to learn of it the next day. However, when I managed to put my emotions in order, I realized it was that the girl's small token of consideration.
そんな話は初めて聞きました。
So like in reality, it was not like very sinister that the phone cords were cut. It was more on like, yeah, for him to not hear that for now, at least, right? And then he still heard it, right? But the next day.
私も初めて話します。
偶然では超能力じゃあるまいし。
大石さんは教えてくれましたよね。あの子は親代様という神様の生まれ変わりではないかと言われてるって。
まあ村の年寄りどもはフルで理科に神通力があると信じてるようでしたがね。
神通力。
Ooshi had originally said it as a kind of a joke, but realizing that I was serious, he slumped his shoulders.
まあ嘘か本当か知りませんがね。
I don't know if it's the truth or not.
未来のことを予言してみせたり、知らないはずのことを話してみせたり。千里眼だの、天の啓示だの。まあ、いろいろです。もちろん、具体的な実例は何一つありゃしないんですがね。
雪絵の事故を予言してみせました。
Ooshi tried to laugh it off, but out of respect to my deceased wife, he kept it restrained.
現職の警視庁の敏腕捜査官が神通力やらたたりやらを信じるわけで。
Having him say that so bluntly, I couldn't respond. Of course, I had no intention of believing such odd things. But he could only say that because he didn't know what I did. Since I met the other girl who both was and wasn't Rika Furude, I couldn't deny the existence of any otherworldly entity.
予知でなく予告の可能性ももちろん否定できません。
Not a prescience, but a warning. If what the girl has said was a warning about Yuki's accident, then things became much easier to understand. Basically, the line of thinking became that it was a threat because I didn't go back to Tokyo. My wife was killed in a way that made it look like an accident.
奥さんの事故の検証に不備は？
もちろん謀殺の可能性も疑いました。現場検証の書類は全て目を通しましたし、私が独自に調査もしました。
The thing is, yes, it can be though, right? Because yeah, he went to this village, right? And there's history that the kidnapping happened, right? So it probably could have been, but who knows, right? Maybe it's just an accident. There weren't any witnesses to Yuki's fall. There was a possibility that somebody had hidden, waiting to push Yuki down the stairs. But damn it, man, right? Imagine pushing a pregnant woman down the stairs. However, the cleaning ladies frequented the roof to hang laundry, and the security cameras on each floor hadn't recorded anything out of the ordinary. There wasn't anything set up on the stairs, and I was unable to find anything suspicious.
結局、独自の検証の結果でも、雪絵が単独で事故を起こしたとしか考えられませんでした。確かに大臣の孫を誘拐して脅迫してのけた連中です。妊婦一人を階段から突き落として証拠を残さないなんてできないことじゃないのかもしれない。
Uishi's expression had completely sobered up.
奥さんは連中に殺された。
Like I thought this was gonna be fun reunion with Ooshi, and then it became very grim, right? Because they're telling us the story of how AKASAKA'S wife died. When Yuki died, I thought that as well. More precisely, I wanted to blame somebody, so I created the most viable scapegoat. But without any clear evidence, that violent notion faded along with the wounds in my heart.
あの少女は私に妻の死を予告し脅迫したのか、それとも妻の死を予言し救う道を示したのか、そのどちらかなのだとしたら私は後者ではないかと考えます。
Ooshi smiled slightly in disbelief as he poured more beer from his bottle.
じゃあいいですよ。赤坂さんの言う通り、古出理香は未来がわかる預言者だとします。なら、なぜあの大災害が予知できなかったんです？あんな恐ろしいガス災害が起こると知ってて、どうして黙っていたんです？
Oh yeah, right?
ほんの数時間前でもいい。
But yeah, why though, right? If she knew the futures, why didn't she like what do you call this? Warn the people there's gonna die or this disaster that's gonna happen.
もし村に知らされていたら、ほとんどの人は死なずに済んだかもしれないじゃないですか。
True. Like why? What was the point of hiding it, right? Great Hinamizawa Disaster. In memoriam list, yet again, it was the near end of June 1983. Volcanic gases from the Onagafuchi swamp erupted and hit the village in the middle of the night. It was an unprecedented disaster where the whole populace was wiped out. It caused a wave of panic about volcanic gas across the country, causing people to overreact over any reports of odd smells. I hadn't heard of the blockade on Hinamizawa area being lifted, so it should be still cordoned off.
それは
It was my turn to be lost for a response. I mean, Ooshi is right though, yeah. He's right there.
まあでもお社様の生まれ変わりである古出理香が殺されたので、村がお社様の怒りに触れて、それで沼から瘴気が湧き出して村を死滅させたんじゃないかって。
But yeah, then again, on last chapter, right? Rika died first, right? And then the thing happened, the disaster afterwards happened.
そういう話が確かにひなみ沢系の生存した人間たちの間でまことしやかにささやかれてたのは事実ですね。
Maybe for Rika, she couldn't see what was gonna happen afterwards because she died, right? Maybe after she dies, she couldn't see the future anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
大石さん、失礼。今、殺されたとおっしゃいましたか？
ん？ああ、うん。まあ、赤坂さんになら話しても問題ないか。
When I saw the news about the gas disaster, I remembered that girl. I then found her name in the list of victims. That's why at the time, I thought her own death she had predicted was due to the gas. It was after that I learned from the tabloids of the mysterious deaths in Hamizawa during the 5 years leading up to the disaster that became known as the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. And the strings of mysterious deaths lined up exactly with what the girl had predicted, so I had always thought to ask Ooshi about it, as he had been involved in the investigation. That's right, that was the reason for our small reunion. But right now, Ooshi had said Rika Furude didn't die in the disaster, but was killed.
最後の年のたたりについて聞かせてもらってもいいですか？
私、退職したとはいえ、守秘義務がありますよ。
中井さん、すみません。お冷やで、ちょっとグレードの高い地酒はありませんか？種類はお任せします。
いやいや、そういうつもりで言ったんじゃないんだけどな。
Ooshi laughed loudly, not wholly unsatisfied, and stopped the hostess to tell her that the cheap booze was fine.
私も週刊誌で報道されている通りのところまでは知っています。でも、大災害の年のたたりは全く知りません。
例の大災害のせいで、ひなみ沢地区全域が封鎖されちゃいましたからね。最後の年のたたりについては、ほとんど捜査ができてないんですよ。何年か後に封鎖が解けたとしても、村人のほとんどが死んでますし、数少ない生存者も親戚の元なんかに散って、所在がほとんどわからないですからね。完全に迷宮入りです。
Ooshi seemed to postulate to himself as he stared at the ceiling as if trying to work out a memory from the rusty cogs in his head. And then he said in complete sober voice,
週刊誌なんかじゃ5年目のたたりが大災害だみたいな言い方をしてますけどね。本当の5年目のたたりはちゃんと綿流しの祭りの当日にあったんですよ。富武二郎っていう旅行写真家がいましてね。彼が犠牲に。
Ooshi gestured about how the victim tore out his own throat with his fingernails as he talked.
で、その富武氏の恋仲の女性が岐阜の山中で焼死体に。岐阜県警さんがあんまり協力的じゃなかったもんで、こっちはあまりよく状況を知らないんですがね。
一夜にして犠牲者が2人も。
実はね、
Did Irie also die?
2人どころじゃ済まないんですよ。その翌日になんですがね、私の後輩の熊谷君が捜査中に車両ごと蒸発しましてね。
Oh yeah, Kuma. But yeah, on the other chapter, right? Also, Oishi also disappeared, right? On the memoriams. Yeah, he was listed as missing there. Kumagai was a younger detective that was going to be partnered with Oishi after we first met.
富武氏の事件捜査のために村に聞き込みなんかに回ってたんですよ。何かの事件に巻き込まれたのかもしれない。私と一緒だったなら無事だったかもしれないと思うと、今でも悔しいですよ。あの日どういうわけか私、お腹をひどく壊しましてね。外回りは遠慮しちゃってたんですよ。
事件の真相に近づきすぎて消された
と思ってます。クマちゃんは善と有望な若者だったけど、まだ現場経験が不足してた。
So yeah, someone took Kuma-san out. He definitely died for sure. And yeah, the body was probably just buried.
トラブル慣れしてなかったんです。
Oishi lamented the fact that he wasn't with his subordinate that day.
で、さらに翌日ですね。
So a little bit different, right? I guess on chapter 3 he was with Kuma-chan, and then both of them were disappeared, right? But for this one, only Kuma.
なあ、彼のことは赤坂さんもご存知ですよね。
Is Irie.
ほら、入江先生ですよ。覚えてます？
ああ、あの病院の若い先生ですね。ぼんやりと覚えてます。
彼ですね。どういうわけか睡眠薬で自殺しまして。
Oh, okay.
遺書の類はなし。
Did they say suicide last time? I actually don't remember.
司法解剖の結果でも睡眠薬によるものと断定されました。動機以外に不審な点はなし。
睡眠薬での死に見せかけるのはそんなに難しくないんじゃないですか。他殺の可能性は？
独身で離婚歴もなし。特定の女性と付き合っていたという話もなし。少年野球チームの監督を務め、村人との親交もあり、誰からも好かれる人物。敵が見当たりませんね。まあそれを調べるにも、もうあの大災害でめちゃくちゃになっちゃいましたからね。今となっては彼の身辺を調べようもありませんが。
それでフルで理科の死は？
その当日です。昼頃に神社に訪れた村の老人たちがフルで理科の死体を発見しました。
他殺？
ああ、話す前にそのイカそうめん食べちゃっといた方がいいですよ。
Yes, because he's gonna say the details on how Rika died.
無体な死に方。
Oishi nodded firmly.
死体は神社の境内、賽銭箱の脇でした。もっとも閉めたのは他の場所でしょうね。全裸で裸足。足の裏は汚れてませんでしたから。
愉快犯の犯行？
司法解剖の結果、性的暴行の痕跡は認められませんでした。
They just outright killed her.
分かったのは、薬物で昏睡させられてからあの場所へ運ばれ、腹部を切開、回復。意図的に臓器を引きずり出して四方に散らしてみせました。
昏睡では、回復は死後ではなく。
うん。
Dude, that's messed up though.
むごい。
Yeah, because yeah, she was alive, but she was unconscious. That girl's prediction was right on the mark. I'm pretty sure she was more detailed about the other deaths that led up to her own. For example, I think she said that the housewife that was beaten to death on the 4th year had her head split open. Then in that case, did she know that her own death would be so terrible? There must have been some moments where she wanted to doubt the validity of her own predictions. But as people died exactly as prophesied, as the years passed, the prophecy would only come closer to fruition. And then facing the final year, unable to struggle against her own destiny, her all too young life was snuffed out. And in such a cruel way. Knowing that her days were numbered and unable to fight the tide of events heralding her end, my heart ached at her helplessness.
この死に方ですが、どうも単なる猟奇趣味ってわけじゃないみたいなんです。と言いますのはですね、ひなみ沢はかつて鬼が住んでたって話は以前もしましたよね。
そんな話も聞きましたっけ。
ひなみ沢村のお祭りの綿流しってのは、そもそも綿流し、つまり臓物流しから転じたものらしいんです。何でも人食い鬼たちが犠牲者をばらして内臓を川に捨てたというところから転じたらしいんですよ。
つまりひなみ沢村においては内臓を引きずり出すことに宗教的な意味があったと。
で、ひなみ沢村の昔話によるとですね、人食い鬼と人間が仲良く暮らすための調停者としてお社様という神様が降臨しているってことになってるらしい。
確か古出理香はそのお社様の生まれ変わりだと言われてるんでしたね。
ねえ。ですからその嵐人神である古出理香を回復して殺すのは村の信仰に対するこれ以上ない冒涜行為と言えるわけです。
信仰への冒涜。それはつまりお社様への冒涜ということですね。
あとは赤坂さんも知っての通りです。お社様のたたりが起こるのはその晩のことです。
ひなみ沢大災害。
The official explanation was that some swamp upstream erupted with toxic volcanic gas, which enveloped the village.
発生した沼は鬼ヶ淵沼と言いまして、ひなみ沢村の旧名鬼ヶ淵村の名前の源となった沼です。村の言い伝えでは、この沼の奥底は地獄につながってるそうで、かつて村にやってきた人食い鬼たちはこの沼から訪れたのだとか。
できすぎですね。
いやいやいや、まだまだできすぎてますよ。村には伝承がありまして、お社様がお怒りになられると地獄の釜が開いて正気があふれ出すなんて言うんですよ。
村人にとって地獄というのは沼の底のこと。つまりそこから 正気があふれ出して村を襲うということ。
そう。つまり古出理香子とお社様の生まれ変わりが冒涜される殺され方をしたので、お社様がお怒りになってたたりとしてあの大災害を起こしたと。そういう話がまかり通っちゃってるんですよ。
つまりあの大災害は人為的なもの。
お社様のたたりが実在せず、本当の偶発的事故でもないってんなら、そう疑いたくもなりますよね。
A weary smile formed on Oishi's face as he listened to my absurd take on things. He wore an expression as though even if it were absurd, there was a time he had thought the same thing as well.
村の侵攻をめぐって狂信的な一派があったと仮定し、彼らがお社様のお怒りがあるような状況を作り出し、大災害を実行してみせた。
もちろん私は笑いませんよ。私も一度ならずともそう考えたことはあります。ですがひなみ沢村がいかに小さい村とはいえ、人口は1000人以上。それを一夜にして抹殺するなんて、どう考えても現実的じゃないです。
The gas eruption was believed to have happened around 2 a.m., several hours before dawn. In that short amount of time, going around and killing all the villagers in a way that made it look like poison gas didn't seem feasible at all.
ガスの発生した沼もまた宗教的な意味がありましたよね。だとしたら沼に何か仕掛けがあって、神の裁きをいつでも再現できるような何かがあったとか。
自衛隊の発表では沼が発生源だということになってますよね。調査チームとかが詳しく調べた上での発表ですからね。そんな仕掛けがあったら見つけてると思いますけどね。
沼そのものに仕掛けがあるとは限りませんよ。ほら、聞いたことありませんか？遠くの泉の水が枯れたら村の泉も枯れたなんて昔話。
何ですかそりゃ。
水源ってのは地下水脈等でつながっていることが多いんです。沼や泉はそれが地上に露出した部分に過ぎません。
つまり赤坂さんが言いたいのは、鬼ヶ淵沼とつながった別の沼か泉があって、それに何らかの仕掛けをすると、鬼ヶ淵沼の圧力とか水圧とかそういうものがいろいろ変わって毒ガスが噴出する仕掛けを大昔の村人がこさえていたと、そういう話ですよね。
Oishi laughed heartily, commending the fact that the youngins have a nice flexible way of thinking that was a former detective in him. Even though it was a hypothesis that he didn't come up with, he still had the presence of mind to not dismiss it right away.
面白い話です。それが立証できたら、日本の犯罪史始まって以来の空前規模の大量殺人ってことになりますよ。
ひなみ沢村の封鎖が解除されたら、ぜひ調べるべきだと思います。大石さんは、県警にはまだ影響力は？
そこそこには。柔道部の名誉顧問ですからね。今でも夏の合宿やなんかにはちょくちょく出かけてます。
Okay, so it still goes back?
ひなみ沢村の封鎖解除がいつになるかわかりませんが、ぜひ調べさせてください。
わかりました。
大石さんはこのひなみ沢村連続開始事件、通称お社様のたたりをどう捉えていますか？
当時の署内は村人の圧力でぎゅうぎゅうでしてね。連続事件は存在しないというのが当時の公式見解でした。事件は個々で またそれぞれに解決していると。
バカな。村の信仰に基づいた連続事件であることは明白なのに。
赤坂さん、そりゃ5年も続いて派手な最後があった今だから言えることですよ。あの当時は偶然の事件が偶然にも綿流しの日に起こる。今年は起きないといいななんて感じだったんです。
偶然なものか。
お、
少女は初めから全て予言していた。
少女？
古出理香です。あの子は私にその後の事件を全て予告してみせました。
赤坂さん、そりゃ本当ですか？
はい。あの子は言ったんです。翌年、ダムの現場監督が殺され、死体をバラバラにされると。
Then ain't Ooshi gonna be mad at this?
のみにとどまらず、その後に続く連続事件を全て私に予告してみせました。
Like Ooshi was friends with the foreman, and he could have warned. Akasaka could have told Ooshi all of this.
赤坂さんがその話を聞いたのは昭和の何年の話ですか？
私が少女と出会ったのは誘拐事件調査の折ですから。昭和。
バラバラ殺人の前年に？
Wrinkles formed between Uishi's eyebrows as he closed his eyes and began to digest what I just told him.
赤坂さん、古出理香が神通力で未来が分かったなんて話がなしだとするなら、これはとんでもない話ですよ。
Wait, if you're wrong about Rika Furude knowing the future through some divine medium. Wait, what?
はい。
今さら私を驚かせるための作り話だなんて言ったら本気で怒りますよ。
私は真実を話しています。
Real talk, real talk.
連続開始事件は発生の前年にはもうすべてシナリオが用意されていた。そしてその予告の通り、古出理香は殺されました。私ははじめ大災害による死を指したものと思っていた。でも彼女の死は災害ではなく殺人者の手による残忍なものであることが分かりました。彼女は殺されると言った。彼女は自分の死を具体的にあの時点で知っていたんです。
なら古出理香はどうして逃げ出さなかったんですかね。仮にそういった死のシナリオがすでに出来上がっていたとして、彼女はそれを知りかつ数年という猶予期間があったわけですよね。
I think because Rika said that she wants to live a happy life. I think something like that with her friends, right? So yeah, that's why she didn't leave, I suppose. But she could have prevented it though. She could have told them that, oh, this might happen, this might happen. But yeah, she didn't.
逃げ出すなり警察に相談するなりの時間はあったはずです。
But then again, if a little kid was saying this to you and go to the cops and say, "Ah, these people are gonna die. These people are gonna die," would you believe that little kid? Most of the time, not, right?
なぜ抗わずに自らの死を受け入れたんです？
わかりません。
古出理香は村の年寄り連中に可愛がられてはいましたがね。両親を失った後は親類もゼロで身寄りはなく、親しい友人と肩を寄せ合うだけの孤独な生活でしたからね。戦う力も頼れる人間も身近にはいなかったのかもしれません。
彼女は自分の死に対して誰かに SOS を発しはしなかったんでしょうか。
村と警察が穏便な関係じゃなかったのは赤坂さんも知られるところだと思います。 少なくとも私の耳にはフルでリカが自身の身柄の保護を求めてきたという情報はありません。あるいは自身が宗教的な生贄にされることに対し定感というか達観というか、そういうものがあったのかもしれませんね。
そんなはずはない。
I spoke decisively. At the time, she said it. She had definitely said that she wanted to live happily. Yeah, that she wanted to spend her time around or surrounded by her dear friends. Yes, she did say that. She hadn't given up on life, she had the hope to keep on living. At that moment, I became dumbstruck.
どうしました？赤坂さん。
いえ。
I fell into silence. Ooshi folded its arms and began murmuring in contemplation again. Eventually, he stood up and headed towards the hallway to find the hostess, yelling that he wanted a pen and paper. When Ooshi, noisy even though he was just thinking, left, the room immediately fell into a chilled silence. I stood up and it was then I realized that I was drunk enough to be unsteady on my feet. When I slid open the window, a beautiful yet somehow ephemeral moon drifted across the night sky. It was just now that I had realized she hadn't accepted her own death. She wanted to keep on living, happily and joyously. She had said that quite clearly to me. But I was a fool. I hadn't been asked explicitly, so I hadn't realized it. She made it clear as day that she didn't want it to die. Wasn't that her cry for help? She didn't say much that she wanted help. But even given that, it wasn't as though she wasn't looking for salvation. Without any family and unable to trust the police, she instead told somebody without any relation to the village, somebody from a faraway place, me. Help me. She had gone around and cut the phone cords. If I had made the phone call and learned of Yuki's death, I probably would have fallen into despair. If I was in that state, even if she was looking for help, her cries would have fallen on deaf ears. Rude though. Like, if he learned of Yuki's death, right, and he wouldn't learn what Riko was gonna say, right, the future, all the stuff that she predicted, Akasaka wouldn't have known if she called or if he had that phone call, right? That's why, knowing everything, she had cut the phone cords. She wanted even a little time to seek help from me. Ooshi, just before now, had lamented that one of the younger officers had gotten mixed up in the case, having been erased because he wasn't there. I was feeling the same way. If only I was there in June 1983. I could have protected her. In 1983, it would have been 5 years since the kidnapping took place. While raising the only daughter, Yuki had left me, putting all my youth and passion into my work, honing my wits and courage, wrestling with difficult cases. Nothing like my failings during the kidnapping incident would have occurred. I wouldn't have been slow to react in one-on-one fights, and by that point, I jumped into foreign mafia-run gambling parlors, but I learned to deal with automatic weapons, let alone handguns. I had grown so much that in 1983, I couldn't have been compared to how I was in 1978. That's why, if I was by her side, I should have been able to save her life. No matter what conspiracy or foul plots drew near, I definitely would have protected her. She, even though sounding resigned, should have still been able to ask me for help. I just didn't realize I couldn't realize it. Just as I thought I wouldn't have realized it if I was told of Yuki's accident. I wasn't able to realize it. I wanted to cry. If I had taken her words to heart, I would have prevented Yukie's death. And I would have been able to protect the girl whom I owned a debt from a predetermined death. She must have been expecting that from me. I learned about the disaster while watching television in my house. Until I learned about that, I had forgotten about Hinamizawa. In order to recover from the shock of Yukie's death, I had tried to remove everything about that place from my memory. What an ungrateful fool I was. You fool. Even though in exchange for saving her, the girl had told me a way to save Yukie, I wasn't able to accept her gratitude, and now here we are. She hadn't died in her sleep due to a natural disaster. She was split open while still alive, killed while suffering the disgrace of having her organs torn out. She must have known beforehand that on that day, on that year, she would have been killed in such a terrifying way. But even knowing what end awaited her, she was all too weak. A lone girl without anybody to rely upon, unable to seek help, had to swallow her own predetermined death, and left this mortal coil. She said she wanted to live. She said she just wanted to live happily with her friends. That's all she wanted. She didn't ask for anything extravagant. For any person that was ever born, it was the very basis of desires. She never said a peep about wanting money or that she wished she was in somebody else's situation. She had said it, that if all debts were preordained, and then hers was probably also all according to plan. She might have been all alone, frail girl, but I don't think she would have accepted it all without at least putting up a fight. There must have been, in some small way, some form of resistance that she mustered. And with that, she could muster seeking my help was part of that. I howled. I stomped at the floor. Why did I become a police officer in the first place? How could I call myself an officer if I couldn't save a single girl from the misfortune that was awaiting her? Was it because there was so much going on at the time I couldn't process the fact that she was asking for help? Yeah, that's right. I was still green. If I was in that situation now, I would have definitely been able to help her. But it was already over. Even if I wanted to settle the regret she left behind, Hinamizawa, as a dangerous area, was still quarantined. Most of the people involved were already dead, with the few that did remain spread around the country, unable to be traced. The stage of the tragedy was still off limits as well. The police investigation was put on hold, the case slowly being buried in the sands of time. Just like how I wouldn't have known unless Ooshi had asked me about it.
赤坂さん、大丈夫ですか?
At some point, Ooshi had returned with a notebook in hand. Until I saw the expression on Uishi's face, I didn't realize that I was in tears.
私は気づけなかった。少女の助けに気づけなかった。
赤坂さん、落ち着いてください。
でももう全部遅いんです。少女は殺された。こんなにも無残な殺され方で。私は頼られたのに救えなかった。救えなかった。
村人と良好な関係を築かなかった私にも責任があるかもしれません。フルでリカが私にそれを打ち明けてくれたなら、私だって救いの手を差し伸べられたかもしれない。彼女が打ち明けに足る信頼を築けなかった。
Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, it was a very like different relationship, I suppose, every time with Ooshi, right? For example, on chapter 1, he was good with Keiichi. Chapter 2, he was a little bit, I guess, in the middle, right? And then the third one, it was really different in the third one. He was, yeah, pretty much like forcing Keiichi when he first met Keiichi as well, right? He was very forceful when asking about Satoko and stuff. So every time we meet Ooshi, it's kind of different. And here, he's a homie to Akasaka, so yeah.
後悔しています。
Maybe if Ooshi had a better relationship or a good relationship with the kids, maybe he could have helped much better. When Ooshi said the word crust, it weighed on me even more. Yes, she had given me her crust. She trusted me, meaning that she thought that I would have been able to ward off the fate of her foreseen death. She believed that in that. I cried, I fell into my hands and knees as I began to bawl. Eventually, Ooshi spoke quietly.
赤坂さん、悔しいですか？
悔しいです。
ならば、フルで理科の敵を取るに値する方法が一つだけあります。
そんな方法があるんですか？
Ooshi showed me the pen and notebook.
フルで理科の死を悼むためにも、せめて私たちで真相を。そうです。フルで理科だけじゃない。大勢が死にました。彼らの無念は計り知れません。でも彼らの死はあの大災害でうやむやにされ、今は捜査すらされることなく忘却の彼方に葬られようとしています。大勢死んだ。おやっさんも殺された。クマちゃんも消された。みんな犠牲になった。なのに警察は捜査もできないでいる。誰に無念が晴らせるのか。私たちだけなんですよ。赤坂さん。
私たちに。
明かせますよ。連続開始事件のすべての現場を踏み、村の裏事情に精通する私と、連続開始事件の前年にフルで理科から重要な真実を明かされたあなたとなら。
でももう死んでしまったんですよ。
そうです。フルで理科は死にました。あなたが青2歳だったから救えなかった。
Ooshi grabbed me, who was a wreck, and lifted me firmly by the lapels.
だからその償いとして真相を究明するんです。私たちで。あなたの話が事実なら全ての事件は計画ということになる。そうならば調べ方は全然変わってくるんですからね。私は今夜をかけてあなたと私の持つ全ての情報をノートにまとめ、明日の朝一番で元の部下たちと連絡を取るつもりです。あの事件を終わらせるものか。絶対に暴いてやるんです。
暴く。
ねえ、あれから数年が経過しましたが時効ではない。捜査は中断であっても終了ではない。まだ続いているんです。続けさせるんです。私たちがです。
ええやりましょう、大石さん。このまま終わらせたりなんかしない。絶対 私たちがこの真相を暴いてみせるんです。絶対に。
I demonstrated my resolve to Ooshi by crying out those words. And just then,
パパ
the sliding door behind me opened and Miyuki revealed herself while sleepily rubbing her eyes. My shouting must have awoken her.
どうしたのパパ。パパ泣いてるの？
ああ、なんでもない。なんでもないよ、みゆき。
I tried hard to smile while wiping away my tears, and though Miyuki looked like she was about to cry herself, she extended her little hand to me.
大丈夫？また怖い夢を見たの？泣かないでパパ。
And when she makes that gesture towards me, I saw a figure of another girl overlapping with her. And her innocent gaze and innocent expression felt frustrating, nostalgic, filling with painful torment. A girl who couldn't be here because I didn't reach out to her. She borrowed my daughter's body to offer me words of comfort.
赤坂、
That's a nice scene though, look at this.
泣かないでくださいなのです。
It might be a hallucination. Maybe a convenient illusion formed from my selfish dreams. However, that was her voice. I'm certain of it. I'm certain I heard it. Rather than blaming me for my mistake, she was compassionate.
ああ、泣くものか。泣くよりもまず私にはやるべきことがある。みゆき、パパはね、お前が生まれる前にひなみ沢ってところで天使みたいな女の子に会ったんだ。
天使？本当に？
ああ、可愛くて優しくて、みゆきにも会わせてあげたかったな。
Right, that's already an impossible wish. The future is already gone.
じゃあみゆき、その子とお友達になりたい。楽しみだな。今度みゆきも連れて行ってね。ひなみ沢に。
Even so, there's still something I can do.
ああ、そうだね。いつか一緒に会いに行こう。必ず。
Someday, I'm sure, we will see her again. That summer, that Higurashi cried in Hinamizawa. Ooshi and I vowed to bring the truth of the case to light and stood up. Everything ended in 1985. I, at least wanting to apologize, had searched for her grave. After the state of autopsy, her remains were entrusted to one of the shrine's followers. In the future, when the quarantine on Himizawa's area was lifted, they would be returned to her family grave. However, unsure who exactly took the remains of Rika Furude, until today, I couldn't even apologize to her. In the future, when the quarantine on Himizawa is lifted, all I could do then was wait until whoever that person is returned to the grave. What I could do right now was not to apologize to her. Instead, until I was able to meet her again, I would reveal the truth and dispel her regrets. Even now, sporadic eruptions of gas in Hinamizawa area meant that the prospect of the quarantine being lifted wasn't happening anytime soon. Most likely, it seemed that she had no intention of meeting me again until I found the truth. That's why the quarantine wouldn't be lifted, or so I thought, until the day I grasped the truth. It was the following year. Ooshi and I co-authored a book on the string of mysterious deaths leading up to the Great Hinamizawa disaster. I decided on the title. Oh, Higurashi When They Cry. That was because for those days I was in Hinamizawa, the sound that I remembered the most was the cry of the Higurashi. I could only wish that, based on this book, those people involved with that incident could refresh their memories and bring to light a new truth. And more importantly, that nothing like this ever happens again. I wrote this in the afterword.
この惨劇がどうして起こされたのか、私たちだけでは真相に至ることが叶いません。どうかこれを読んだあなた、真相を解き明かしてください。それだけが私たちの願いです。
This year, the quarantine on Hinamizawa still hasn't been lifted. Ooh, chapter finished. It was so short though, right? Pretty much half of the normal chapters, right? The second and third one at least. Those were much longer. The first one was a little bit... Hey, it was long, but not as long as the second and third one. So we also unlock an all cast review, and I can't wait to see that, but... yeah, we'll check that out in the next episode. It was nice, this episode, man. Yeah, pretty much an epilogue, right? Of what happened on 1978. Akasaka meeting with Uichi-san. Talking about the stuff, right, that happened. And... yeah, it was... the scenes were... it was just nice, the scenes, man. I enjoyed it, even though... like, it was so short. Like, this chapter is short, I mean. It was nice. It was a nice addition. So, I guess next episode, we'll check out the all-cast review, and then maybe I'll just give my thoughts, a little of my thoughts in this chapter, right? So we're gonna continue this and finish up Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 4, Himatsubushi, in the next one. So I'll just see you then, guys. Bye-bye.